the words values and priorities gets thrown about a lot, but how often do we really take the time? I mean, really and truly take the time to define what our core values are, what our current priorities in this season, in our business, and how often do we take the time to understand how they impact our life and our business? You see, a gentle business entrepreneur knows her core values, how they show up in her business, how they impact her business. She also knows her priorities in this current season in her business. And sorry, but she also sets boundaries based on those values and priorities. Did I just make you cringe at that word boundaries? It's something we have to talk about. Boundaries help keep a business gentle, and you do that by clearly identifying your values and priorities. If you look at this podcast, gentle is a core value in this podcast. It's a core value in my business. Do you know your list of core values? Hey there, I'm your host, Marta Gertson, and welcome to Doing Business Gently. If your business feels hard and confusing and nowhere near gentle, I'm glad you're here. This is the place where we talk about life business integration, and we approach that idea of integration through creating an aligned business that fits you, your values, your priorities, your personality, and the current season of life you are in. We also do that by talking about how to find clarity so that you're not constantly second guessing every decision you make in your business. And maybe even more importantly, we talk about doing all of this from a habit and a place of rest. So join me today as we dive into the idea of knowing our core values and our priorities in this current season. This episode is brought to you by the Gentle Business Life Mini Mind that is coming the first week in February of 2025. This is a 6-week kind of a jumpstart beta group for the upcoming Gentle Business Life initiative that I am launching here in 2025. And this first 6-week program is an opportunity to bring together women who are ready to do business gently and differently. And we're looking to get together and discuss, where do we have clarity? Where do we need to refine clarity? Where do we need to find it? And then how are we going to use these core pillars of a gentle business like clarity, alignment, and rest into our businesses to help us do business differently and gently in 2025 and beyond? So if you would like to join us for some group coaching calls and developing a community with like-minded women who are on the same journey and asking a lot of the same questions, if you would like to have an opportunity to connect with other women and support them as they support you, then I invite you to join us in the Gentle Business Life Mini Mind. You can learn more at selastudios.co/mini mind. I hope you can join us. Look forward to seeing you in the group. Before we dive into this idea of knowing our core values and our priorities, I want to do a super quick recap of what we've been covering the last few episodes. The 3 pillars of a gentle business include clarity, alignment, and rest. And these are supported by the ideas of identity and personal brand, which we talked about in the last episode, number 84. And today we're focusing on clearly defining our core values and our priorities. And in the next episode, we're going to be diving into the third idea of how healthy habits and routines help us do business gently. I want to make sure we're on the same page. So when we talk about a core value, a value is to consider or rate highly. I'm looking at my favorite website, Merriam-Webster, and it's also to rate or scale in usefulness, importance, or general worth. When we talk about core values, we're usually discussing a list of about 3 to 6 words that represent you in your business. They represent how your business operates. They become kind of a compass or a way to navigate your business. Now, a priority is what needs your focus right now. A priority is a preferential rating. It's something given or meriting attention before competing alternatives. It also is recognizing what needs your attention and your time and your money right now. And so these are filters. These become a compass and a filter that you run your business through as you are deciding on a marketing campaign. Does this include the priorities that are in your business right now? Do you have time to do the type of marketing campaign that you would like to do? Is it too involved, or is it going to fit in nicely? Is the type of marketing that you want to do representative of your core values? Or are you finding yourself kind of stepping out of alignment of your core values and your priorities and how you want to go all in on a specific type of marketing? That's just one example. There are so many different ways our core values and our priorities show up in our businesses and in how we operate in our businesses. In putting together this updated podcast, one of the things I knew I needed was a bit of a break at the end of 2024. And in order to prepare for this rebrand and this relaunch under the name Doing Business Gently, one of my priorities needed to be rest. I needed to stop pushing myself so hard to get the current podcast at the time, keeping it up and running while pushing myself to get the relaunch and the rebrand done on the podcast right in the middle of Christmas and New Year's and Thanksgiving and all of that, including all the family things I wanted to do. Looking at my priorities told me that was not wise. Looking at the fact that I wanted a gentle business was not wise. And one of the core values for me is gentle. And to have a gentle business, have a gentle podcast, one of my goals has been for a long time to get ahead in recording these episodes by at least 2 to 3 weeks. And I was not going to be able to do that. That was not going to be a representative of my core values and my priorities or my ability to do business gently during such a busy season and time of year. I love the book Essentialism by Greg McKeown. It's a book that I actually need to go back and read. For a long time, I was reading that book or listening to the audiobook at least once a year. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. And in it, one of the questions he asks is if you go back and look at your calendar, does it represent your values and priorities? Or at least at the very least, does it represent what you say are your core values and your priorities? And a lot of times that's a reality check. When we look at how we spent our time, when we look at our calendar, the things that we've invested our financial resources and our time and our attention to, are they representative of our values and priorities? A lot of times they're not. And so we need to do that regular review of our calendar, of how we're spending our time, and making sure that we are pulling ourselves back and getting ourselves back on track. Or sometimes we need to look back and have our priorities change, and we just haven't acknowledged that yet. This all takes time and effort. It takes time to review what's going on in our business. It takes time to look at how we're spending our time and making sure that we're in alignment and that we're on track to honor what we say are our values and our priorities. And that's where that word boundaries comes in. And a lot of times that word can make us cringe because we know we need them. It's hard to set them. It's hard to keep them. It's hard not to let them slip because we have a really cool client we love working with, or we need business. So we're willing to let that priority or that boundary slip a little bit in order to work with that client. Living by values and priorities is not always easy. And it's not always gentle either, because sometimes it feels like a battle that we need to keep this boundary. We know this is a core value. We know this is a priority, but we're being pulled in this other direction that looks really cool. There's a bright, shiny object, or this is going to help us fulfill a business goal. And that doesn't always feel gentle. But when we know that we have a system in place, we know that we can take that bright, shiny object, or we can take that pull that sense of being pulled in a new direction and bring it back to reality, bring it back in front of us, and run it through the filter of our core values and priorities. We can usually get an answer pretty quick. Is this a good fit or is this not? Are we going to go into massive debt because we're investing in a course or a program, but one of our values is freedom, and freedom could be freedom from debt? Are we spending a lot of time investing in marketing and showing up a certain way in social media, but one of our priorities is taking care of our mental health, and spending that much time on social media is not good for our mental health? And again, there are so many ways our values and our priorities show up in our business and how we do business. But it takes time to define these, and we don't often take the time to really clearly define what are our core values. What are our priorities right now? Core values rarely change, or at least not significantly. I go back and do my core value exercise at least once a year. And this year, at the end of last year, I actually looked at my core values and realized a couple things had been dropped off. And one of them was beauty. I need the beauty of nature. I need to be able to bring the beauty of creativity, the beauty of just beautiful things into my world and be able to share them. So I added that back to my list, and now my list is up to 6. And I had redefined and had gone through this exercise of defining my core values about 3-4 years ago, and all of them but one stayed the same. There was one that the word just needed to be refined a little bit, or it stood out to me and I understood it in a better way. So core values don't change that much. Sometimes they need to be tweaked. Sometimes you may need to add on a word. Maybe you need to swap one out that fits you better. But these are core values. This is how you show up in your business, how you operate your business. When you are serving clients, they can kind of intrinsically know these are some of the core values that you stand for. When we look at priorities, and we've talked about the idea of hustle is not the problem. Toxic hustle, when hustle becomes the norm instead of the exception, or for a specific season or reason, toxic hustle is the problem, not hustle. And so when you look at the priorities in front of you, you know that you have some deadlines coming up. You know that you have family events coming up. You know you have birthdays. You know there's a vacation coming up. There are times that you are going to need to hustle to get that deadline met, because that's your priority. Because right now your priority is to get ready for what's coming up next. So you may need to hustle for a little bit. But again, it is for a season, it's for a specific reason, and you know that's going to end. And then your focus changes, your priority changes. Now that is done, you've met the deadline, you've published it, you've delivered it, you've helped your client do what they needed to do, and now your priority has changed and your focus has changed to what is next. But if you do not have your priorities clearly defined, you are pulled in so many different ways, sending you in all sorts of directions. That is not a gentle place to operate from. That is not a gentle business. So clearly knowing and defining what your values and priorities are really does help you support those pillars of clarity, alignment, and rest. So if you do need to take the time to set these up and really define them, take the time to examine, what are my core values? This is something we spend a lot of time in the mastermind. And if you are going through my business clarity toolkit in the mastermind, this is a section we take quite a long look at. What are your values? How are they going to show up in your business? So let me ask you, let me challenge you. Do you know your 5 core values? You don't have to share them with anybody. These are for you, but they become a compass. They become a way to navigate your way through your business, through business decisions. And then you also know your priorities. Do you have a list of priorities that need your time and attention right now? And if you're getting to the point where that list of priorities is 10, 12, 15 items, you've got too many priorities. Go back through and pick 2 or 3 that are your priority right now, and then put some dates on the other ones. One of my members in the mastermind, she suggested that you create a brain dump. You go do a brain dump of everything that you're working on, and then you go focus on the top 2 to 3 that you know absolutely need your time and attention or can be quickly accomplished. And then you go back and put dates by the other items that are on that list, so that you know in your head, you know that those are not forgotten. They're just not right now. I, I forget where she learned it from, but it was called closing the loops. And so when you meet a priority, when that priority is finished for that season or for that project, you can move on to the next priority. But there are also seasons of priorities. And there are times when it is summertime and you want time to be available for your family, your kids, your grandkids, family members coming in for visits. And so business needs to take a bit of a step back. There are other times when you're heading into a new program or a new launch or a new service that you want to provide, and that becomes a priority. And some of the things in your personal life need to take a bit of a step back so that you can focus and prioritize the business. That's okay. Business is cyclical. Business is not a linear line. It is full of ups and downs and valleys and twists and turns. But when you know your core values and what needs your priority right now and your focus, you have a way of running everything through this filter and making sure that you are staying on track. Sometimes you have to fight for a gentle business, and boundaries help you fight for gentleness. They help you fight for doing business gently. And so, even though that word can make us cringe, it is a necessary word. It's a word we all need to pay more attention to. And those boundaries are built based on your priorities and your core values. So, don't ignore them. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you are challenged to go look at your values and priorities and what has your time and attention. And are those the right things that need your time and attention right now? Join me next time as we take a look at this third supporting element of a gentle business, your routines and your habits, and making sure that you are creating healthy routines and habits that support you doing business gently.